good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Azure Flash News episode 93.
Wow.
How's it going, Rick?
It's good. It's very good. Episode 93, that's pretty exciting. I mean, we are getting really close, and arguably we've already kind of hit the 100 episode milestone,
Yeah.
but officially, so unofficially, we started keeping track. But no, this is awesome. I mean, it's really cool to have been around this long and be doing this stuff.
I know, and I'm glad that there are people out there that find value in the show that come to watch. We do have a good set of people that catch us on uh, YouTube live, which
Yep.
we're doing live now. We sometimes get
Yep.
people to catch us live. We try to alert people on Twitter. So if you want to know about the show going live, you'll need to subscribe to our Twitter.
That's
You
right.
can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's another good way to find out. We're getting on up there in the subscribers. So hit that subscribe and like button
Please.
if you want to be notified of our new episodes coming out. So
Yeah,
anyway,
right on.
all right. So
Yeah,
we've got
no,
some
it's
good announcements.
we really do. We really do. We kind of kick off with some announcements around some communal capabilities, if you will,
Yep.
and then we move into some data, which we always love data, right? That's kind of our deal.
Yep.
Uh, Back into more of a herding cats, if you will. I'll just leave it at that for now. a
Little cat
really
herding.
a really fun one around storage, really fun. And then definitely last, but definitely not least, some new ways Microsoft's getting
Huh.
creative in how we not only look for carbon neutral, but carbon negative
Yeah.
capabilities.
Yeah, yeah. This is exciting. So we'll get to that one here in just a minute.
Very exciting.
All right,
Yeah, absolutely.
let's start with a little monitoring. Let's start with a little
Yes,
monitoring.
definitely.
So Azure Monitor, let me see if I can get it out. Community Community Repository now available. What the heck is this thing?
So the cool thing about, I mean, just the name, right? That implies community repository. It's got a whole bunch of stuff that's been developed by folks within the Azure community, as the
Yeah,
name implies,
yeah,
right? So, we can build things, we can design things, we can create configurable, widgets, if you will. But at the end of the day, how the customer uses it is what matters,
yeah,
right? And if there's an opportunity for the customer, somebody who goes and does something really novel, and then they bring that back to the community and they say, "Hey, I've created this really cool thing, and oh, by the way, you can use it."
yeah,
To me, that's huge, right?
yeah.
So basically, what we have is we have a community repository,
Like
right, around
GitHub.
Azure, which is a collaborative space for people to come in and actually share and explore and create artifacts, right? So you've got
Mm-hmm.
queries, Kusto query language, KQL. You have Azure automation with Azure runbooks,
Yep,
or you've got workbooks, which is different than runbooks, right?
yep.
And of course, alerts. Like if you want to set up different alerts for different metric thresholds or different, there's a gazillion different types of alerts that you can create.
Yeah, that's right. And it's all hosted on GitHub so that people
Yep.
can get to it. I pulled it up. I don't know if you can see that, Rick, or not, but I did actually pull
So
up
it's
the.
on GitHub so people can get to it. I
You
love it.
can get there. Not. It's Rick. This is part of my Texas accent. So
I
it's
know.
not that you
No,
get. It's
it
not you
works. It
get
works.
there. You get
You
get
get, y'all can get there.
get there.
And I
I
I
like it.
love it, dude. I'm jelly of somebody that's got that accent. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well. Anyway, so I'm showing it here on the screen, so you can see here that it is a GitHub repository, and you'll notice here
Yep.
there are even pull requests out there. Oops, it's asking me to sign in. I won't do that.
Yeah.
But there are pull requests for you to go out and look, and so please become a part of the community. Check this out, take
Absolutely.
advantage of it, and then please contribute. That is the spirit of open source, so you can get get things out of it, and you can
Yep.
put things back into it.
Well, and
Well,
you touched on something, right? Again, Microsoft, the biggest open source company in the world right now, basically.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and even there's been recent articles, even around Kubernetes as kind of being Google's last open source effort. I take it with a grain of salt, but this really is where we've really shined, I think, in the last
Yeah.
couple of years, is opening up, what we have, and it's not just these little like inconsequential things, right? I mean, we open sourced our architecture for our servers and our data centers, right?
That's
So the
right.
Azure data centers, anybody can go download the specs and take a look at what we're doing with those servers and how they're configured and all this other good stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
again, yet another just another example of how we are, working with the open source community, contributing to the open source
Mm-hmm.
community, which is, to me, the most important part, right?
Yeah.
Is enabling and contributing.
Yeah, and I think that it's so important for the community to get involved because there's so much to learn from each
Oh,
other, and we are more capable as a team, and so we want to
absolutely.
help enable the community to become part of that team and to form an Azure team on their own, and to really
Totally.
collaborate. So check out the Azure Community, Azure Monitor Community
Yep.
repository when you get a chance. There's all kinds of things here, so check it out. It's really cool.
It really is. And the last thing I'll say about that though is I love to see what our customers come up with, right?
Yeah.
Because our mind's eye is it's not my outlook, but we have a way of looking at the world. And sometimes you can get caught in that, right? That not treadmill, but sometimes you can kind of get, I'll say,
A
stuck in your
rut.
ways.
How about a
We
rut?
try to be learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls, but
Yeah.
yeah. And so all of a sudden to see some of the stuff customers are doing with these capabilities is so cool, man. There's some bright people.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Whenever you're a
Yeah.
practitioner, a day-to-day practitioner, you get really, really great experience and great ways to do it. So we are always
Yes.
interested in hearing what you guys have to add to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So this is kind of interesting. Well, I shouldn't say kind of. This is very interesting. Um,
it's
yeah, I know, right? It's like, I'll
it's
make this. Yeah, it's
moderately interesting.
moderately
Yeah.
interesting. Mildly, whatever. It's
No.
conversationally interesting.
Yes.
So Azure Data Explorer. There's probably a little bit of confusion what ADX is or Azure Data Explorer.
Or
Mark, can you
Cousteau.
kind of give us? Can you
Yeah.
just kind of give us the,
Sure.
what is ADX
So
or Data Explorer?
that's a great place to start. There are three ways this is called, and they're all the same thing. They're interchangeable. One of them is Azure Data Explorer. The other one is
Yep.
ADX. X has
Yep.
been Explorer. And another one is Custo. And you'll even notice that in the documentation, everything it always says Custo. So there's just still a lot of that Custo. So if you search for Custo, you'll come across all of our documentation. So those are all of the names that mean the same thing. And
Yep.
Azure Data Explorer, or Custo, is a uh, um, append only database for logs and for any other stuff. So it can
Yep.
take ingest really fast. You can take and then query it. It has really rich analytics built on top of it, and it uses what we call KQL. And we talked a little bit about this in the last
Yep.
one because it was Azure Monitor. Azure
Yep.
Monitor is built on Azure Data Explorer technology. And so if you are using the query language of log analytics or stream or Log Analytics or App Insights or Azure Data Explorer, that's called KQL. So it's this
Yeah.
ecosystem of capabilities. Azure Data Explorer, you can think of that as the database. We also use it in, Log Analytics. It's kind of the same engine, and then also App Insights also uses the same engine. So,
Yeah.
except App
That's a good
Insight
point.
has all of the dashboards and stuff that you need to do
Right.
application
Right.
application performance monitoring. So,
Exactly.
so anyway, so that's a little bit about Data Explorer. And uh, you know, we have some cool stuff coming up.
Yep. So streaming ingestion is something that we've had as an offering, right, for a while. It's been in public preview, and basically, it's really what is kind of the preferred way of ingesting. It's the preferred option for ingesting information when you're talking about something data bigger than 4 gig per hour per table, right? I mean, if you need something faster than that, the streaming mechanism is going to be orders of magnitude faster. And in fact, we're talking about 10 seconds versus 4 gigs per hour per table kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely not only is it ingested extremely fast, but it's also immediately available. There isn't like a staging, there isn't like an asynchronous write to location B or whatever it is, right? Once you've ingested this information, this high volume of data, right? You have now instant access to it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the most important thing to understand, while this is a small announcement around one capability, the thing to understand about Azure Data Explorer is that it is when you provision it, you provision a certain number of nodes, and when
Yep.
you provision those certain number of nodes, you'll get a certain amount of your data in the hot cache near those nodes, and the rest of it is kind of offline a little bit farther away, so it takes a little bit longer to query, but it is wicked fast and
Yes.
the KQL language is very capable and very analytical in nature. And there's even
Yep.
some machine learning capabilities built in. So this platform, if you have logs you want to analyze, or if you have JSON data you want to be able to analyze, even if you leave it in the JSON,
Great
I'm pretty
point.
sure that's called a dynamic column type. If you leave
Yep.
it as a dynamic column type, you can actually still use dot notation to reference the pieces of that JSON document in there. Even if you want to query on one of the fields inside that JSON document, you can do that in your Azure Data Explorer query.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a great capability. You guys ought to check it out. I have customers using this for these kinds of log scenarios where they want to keep up with some data that's immutable. That and this is immutable. You
Yep.
can't like update the data, so it's really
Oh,
for
like you
monitoring.
said, it's append only, right? I mean,
Yep.
the whole point of this is to make just pull it in as fast as possible, keep that hot cache on standby, ready to go query. And like you said, it's wicked fast.
Yeah.
The other cool thing I think about this particular technology is that uh, there's some reusable, I'll say behind the scenes, some potential reusable componentry, right? So look for other data streaming, data ingestion, data querying services to potentially get bigger, faster, stronger, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Because of the work that's been done, the underpinnings that are available to this technology can also be used in other places in the context of Azure.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yep.
And
Yeah, very
um,
cool.
and I was just gonna kind of flip over to the data streaming documentation um, because what I'm pretty sure that this is talking about is using like Event Hub.
Oh, sure.
So that's kind of the other parts that you need to use to make this work. So just think about kind of the streaming technologies and how you might pull that data in. That's available now. Check it out, Azure Data Explorer.
Very cool. Right on, man.
Um,
This one, so this next one I kind of like, and fortunately we haven't had the weather to support any conspiracy theories about the Azure Arc being an arc for 40 days and nights of rain.
Yeah, I have
Um,
heard people say that. I heard people
yeah,
say
well,
arc as in like 2 by 2, and I'm
like
like, no, no, no,
no,
arc.
no,
This
no,
is
no,
arc as in
exactly.
like the arc from our cloud to your data center
The
occurred on.
overarching, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That makes me laugh, right? When you talk about the arc and 2 by 2, and I always see there's that T-shirt meme that makes its way across the internet. It's like, act something to the effect of act like you're the third monkey on the ark and baby it's starting to rain, like you need to get in that ark and you're the oh my gosh, it just makes me laugh every time I see it. I can't
I
do it
know.
justice, but the verbatim term or the way they say it, but I laugh so hard every time I see that.
I know. I
And
know.
baby it's starting to rain.
It is. It is.
So
So
at so the cool thing about Azure Arc, as you mentioned, right, is it creates an arc of monitoring across different environments, right?
yeah,
From as Microsoft, we recognize that not everything lives in Azure, and not everything may live on premises, right?
yeah,
There are places and pockets of supported infrastructure, supported applications, and they don't necessarily just live in one place, right? And in this hybrid world, and this in this multi-cloud world, we have to be able to provide solutions that keep it productive, that are enterprise grade, that don't cost a gazillion dollars,
hmm,
and also enable you to stay productive without basically churning through all this. All your day job becomes operational support across all these environments, and
yeah.
that's not where you should be spending your time.
Yeah. So Azure Arc really starts to give you the capabilities to manage and build and use infrastructure both in Azure and on-prem with one management plane and one monitoring plane, which of course is Azure. So this
Right.
is really exciting. And one of the things you can do on Azure Arc is, of course, Kubernetes. You can build a Kubernetes cluster as a part of Azure using AKS on-prem.
Yep.
And
Right.
after all of that explanation, this announcement is about using Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes and using the monitoring as a part of Azure.
Correct. And the thing I like about this isn't like we just shoehorned Azure Arc into basically dropping an agent on your Kubernetes cluster nodes. This gives you insight into your containers, your controllers, your nodes. I mean, it's not just, right, node health.
No.
You can see your deployments, you can see your
Yep.
containers, you can see your controllers, you can see your nodes, you can see different clusters, right? You can see, so it's essentially cross cluster. Okay, I'll call it federated cluster
Mm-hmm.
management and monitoring, right, through one unified or single pane of glass. I know
Yep.
that's a way overused term, but to me that's really critical, right? Because Kubernetes is so much more than just a bunch of nodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if that's all you're managing and monitoring, you're not quite getting it.
No, and I think the other thing that's interesting about the Azure Monitor capability here is that it is a monitor for containers. And so what that
Yes,
means, and I'm showing this here on the screen for those of you who are able to watch on YouTube, this actually shows a list of containers and a list of platforms that are all supported by Azure Monitor. And you'll see here that it may be hard to tell. You may not recognize all of the icons, But these icons here on the left, those are all
Yep.
AKS clusters.
AKS
And
clusters.
then
Yep.
this one is an Azure Arc AKS cluster. It has a little extra icon here underneath. And then you'll notice
Yep.
this one is a OpenShift. OpenShift.
Oh,
So OpenShift on Azure is also a part of this,
yeah,
ARO
right
we
on.
call it, Azure Red Hat OpenShift is what that stands for.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
And so you can not only monitor your AKS clusters in Azure, you can also monitor your ARO clusters in Azure, which is a managed Red Hat OpenShift cluster ready to go for you, which runs on Kubernetes. So it's similar, but has a little bit of the Red Hat special sauce. Um, and then the next thing that you can monitor is your AKS clusters that are in Azure Arc on-prem. That is power.
Yeah,
That is power.
that really is. So this, we were talking about this part of the show. This is a lot more than just, hey, here's the Azure guest agent that
Mm-hmm.
we deploy on our VMs in
No.
Azure to do this. There's more here.
Yeah.
There's more there, if you will, right?
Well,
Because obviously, there's cluster management, like you said. There's node, there's pod, there's container. There's a lot more
well,
there.
and it deploys not only to the VMs deploys the agent, but also it's deploying the agent into the cluster as a daemon set, right? And so,
Oh, a daemon. Okay,
yeah,
that's what I was going to
yeah,
ask. So it's not necessarily the sidecar model. It's
no,
it's
no,
maybe a
it's a
little bit
daemon
different
set. No,
implementation.
it does.
Daemon set.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
It does not go in with your applications. It's actually part of the platform, and it goes onto the
gotcha.
platform as part of the Kubernetes cluster, just as a daemon set across all the nodes.
So you're not necessarily. I mean, the cool thing about that though is when I talk about sidecars, when I think about like we've got the Envoy right pattern that
Mm-hmm.
we used to implement some of the sidecar for Service
Mm-hmm.
Mesh and some of the other capabilities. There's not a huge latency component to that, but there is a latency
Yeah,
component. I
sure.
mean, it's minimal, but there's the impacting effect of adding all these extra layers, right? Where over time it could impact your,
Yeah,
maybe you've got some really performance requirements, and by doing it as a daemon set,
right,
I think what we're doing is we're officially making it a non-issue from a
right,
performance
right,
perspective, which
right.
is really cool.
Right, yeah, that daemon set
Awesome.
has a it deploys as a container, of course. So
Yep.
in
Yep.
Azure in virtual machines, what we do is we deploy these kinds of things as extensions, VM extensions.
Right.
But then, of course, whenever you get into Kubernetes, we actually have to deploy a Kubernetes resource, which is the daemon set, and it
Yep.
gets it gets the OMS agent across all of the nodes, and that's what starts
Oh.
pulling up all of the performance, all of the performance metrics for the
Oh.
containers, for the containers and for the nodes. So it's very
Yeah.
powerful.
No, it's just huge.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very powerful capability, and now you can not only do it in the cloud, but you can do it on prem with Azure Arc. So go check out
Yep.
Azure
Yep.
Arc. It's awesome. Like
Absolutely.
like
It
like
really
like
is.
Rick was saying, we know that not everything is in the cloud. It's it's on prem too. So if you want to be able to manage one thing in both places or both things in one place, Azure Arc is a way
Right.
to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, man.
All right.
Couldn't agree more.
Now this next one, I know you're really excited about this one.
I am. And so,
Come on, Rick.
you know,
You
it, it,
excited? Never.
I know, right? It takes a lot these days. Uh, Early on, right? So when back in the day, right, way, way, way back, 4 or 5 years ago or whatever it was now, right? We would talk to a lot of customers, and they would have maybe a file share that they would be leveraging as part of their application solution.
Yep.
And so they would ask us, well, how do you do that in the cloud? And we would say, well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to implement something like a data locator pattern, right? Where you may be storing something in
Right.
storage, and then you've got some metadata, perhaps in maybe a database. At the time, it was probably Azure SQL database.
Yep.
And what you would do is you would invoke either the HTTP client or the SDK to go grab that. So a significant amount of rework, right? If you're
Yeah.
using a network file share and you're used to just interacting with it, using the built-in, namespace and methods and properties, that was a big rewrite, frankly. And I think it was a lot for people to stomach if they had made a big investment in using NFS as part of their
Yeah.
solution. Well, as of July
Oh
27th,
yeah. Well, not
so
anymore.
this. a couple days ago, NFS 3.0 support for Azure Blob Storage is now in preview.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you can take that enterprise application that you have on premises that's using network file share, right? The NFS protocol, file system, I'm
Yep.
sorry, network file system. So you can use that 3.0 protocol. You don't have to rewrite anything,
Nope.
right? And basically, you can now point it to Azure Blob Storage, and you've got an NFS compliant solution. 3.0, of
Yes.
course.
Yes. This is great
We
because
know.
there's so many Linux applications that really kind
Yes.
of are centered around NFS. I think there's been a lot of support for NFS in that open
Yep.
source Linux
Yep.
community. And now
Oh
we're
yeah.
enabling the capability for you to do it directly on Blob, which it just doesn't get much cheaper than Blob storage.
No, it really does. So this complements the SMB capabilities with Azure Files,
That's
right? So
right.
you've got the SMB 3.0 protocol support in Azure Files, and now you have NFS 3.0 support for, in Azure Blob Storage.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to mount a container using NFS, right? I mean, if you
Let's
scroll
see
down
here.
there you
Oh, here
go.
it is.
Yeah, boom.
Mount dash o sec equals sys first blah 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 blah. Copy paste.
Yeah,
Boom. Done.
done.
Yeah.
Right? So there's your storage account name,
And the
there's your
container.
container name,
Yeah.
and you've got that kind of file path, right? So the whack mnt whack test, and that's how you're mounting it, I believe, locally.
Yep.
So whack mount whack test, and you're up and running.
Yeah. And one thing to know is this is in preview. So this is a
Yep.
preview announcement.
Oh,
Um,
good call. I know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. And so you'll notice here that you need to use a block blob storage account, which actually, I guess, in some ways you could call it a V1 storage account, but it's actually
Right.
a premium storage account. So you'll need to use premium storage, and
Yep.
it's available East, U.S. Central, Canada, and I think that's it for now. Canada Central.
For now.
For now. So
Correct.
this is just a preview. So if you want to try this out, you'll just have to go look in one of those three regions. But
Yep.
being a part of Azure Storage is deployed everywhere. So there's
Right.
really no question as to whether or not this will go to all of the regions. It will. It's just we're starting with these three
Absolutely.
regions.
Yeah, and to your point, so support for GPv2, which is the version 2 of storage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and standard tier performance will be announced soon.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at this going, well, I don't want premium performance, I don't want to pay for premium. Well, because it's in preview, it's whatever the cost differential is today, it's probably going to cost you the same as it would for just standard
Yeah.
tier performance, but you're getting premium because it's in preview. And then when it does go GA, then you can switch to standard if you don't need premium.
Yeah.
So effectively, removing whatever that cost bump is from the cost of your having your solution deployed in Azure.
Yeah, and I think that probably I think the reason why they started with premium is that probably the applications that are using this probably will need premium. So that's
I would guess
probably where
so.
they just kind of started with. But
Yep.
they make it clear that we'll have the standard tier out pretty soon. Won't be long.
Yep.
Sit tight. There's always new updates coming. And guess where you can find out the latest
Always.
updates from Azure?
I'm going to say right here on this show.
Right here on this show. You can catch us here, and we'll continue to provide you with all the latest news in
Absolutely.
Azure. Anything else about this one, Rick? NFS 3.0.
No, I mean, again, this is just something that
Try it out.
it couldn't happen, soon enough, right? Let's be honest.
No kidding.
We've all been waiting for it. We've all been looking for that not magic solution, but that easier lift and shift option or move and improve option, right, to go into Azure
Yep.
and not having to rewrite a bunch of things because you were rewriting a bunch of aspects of your solution because you were dependent on
You
NFS.
know,
No more is that the
and
case.
the other thing that people would have had to have done is maybe create an NFS cluster. So like
Yes.
you would have had to rolled your own with all of the virtual
Ugh,
machines and
ugh.
it's
That gives me the heebie-jeebies.
we don't like that. We don't want you to do that.
As soon as I hear roll your own, I just get the heebie-jeebies,
So
especially if somebody's talking about, authorization, authentication stuff.
I'll uh, just remember, you didn't have to upgrade any of your licenses. You didn't have to do
Yep.
anything more to start to get this capability. Just go back into the Azure portal. It's there for
Yep.
you. New capabilities coming all the time.
Yep.
This is exciting.
Absolutely. Totally.
It's an exciting
No,
time to
I'm
be in the
very
cloud,
excited.
right, Rick?
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is, right? It absolutely is.
Ah.
All right. So this last
Okay,
announcement,
so this one is a bit off the radar, a little bit
a little
different.
bit.
So
Yeah.
why don't you introduce us
So
to this one? This one's not even on the
yeah.
Azure
So
blog.
so this is really cool. Okay. So effectively, the headline reads: Microsoft used hydrogen fuel cells to power a data center for 2 days straight. Okay, and it's what kills me is the this little tagline isn't necessarily accurate. It says this will help Microsoft efforts to become carbon neutral.
Yeah.
Okay, carbon neutral, neutral being the key word by 2030. But if you get into the article, that's not our goal.
No.
Our goal is to actually be carbon
Yeah, and
negative
it's
by
actually,
2030.
in some ways, I'm wondering if that was actually a typo because just in the first paragraph, it says
It could be,
bringing the
right?
company one step closer to becoming a carbon negative by 2030, which means we actually
Yeah.
take more carbon out of the atmosphere than we put into it.
Right. Well, we're basically we're paying off our old debts, right? We're
Right.
trying to be good corporate stewards of the climate of the planet, and instead of just saying, "Hey, we're carbon negative," we're saying we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to basically try and reverse some of the carbon. We'll call it carbon collateral
Yeah.
that we've created in the
Yep.
past by actually going in this extreme direction. So what's interesting about this particular announcement is it started kind of in 2018, right? So we had Golden, some researchers in a renewable energy lab in Golden, Colorado, who were working on what's called a proton exchange membrane, which is
Mm-hmm.
a type of hydrogen fuel cell. And they were using it as an experiment to power a rack of computers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so think small, start small, right? Just kind of work on this little rack of computer
Mm-hmm.
thing, and boom, they got that figured out. We demoed it. We were intrigued with it. The next thing is a 250 kilowatt fuel cell system. So that's enough to power a full row of data center servers.
That's
Okay, a
that
full
doesn't
row.
sound like a row. That doesn't sound like much. Um,
I know, I
that's a
know. A
lot.
full row of data center
That's
servers,
a
which
lot.
is
And these things
pretty
are
considerable.
very high powered.
Exactly. So in September of last year, we basically installed it in our Azure data center, one of our locations, which is this case happens to be Salt Lake City,
Yeah.
right? And in June, we ran it, right? So we installed it
Worked.
in September. Obviously, we probably had to go through some, validation and testing and some other things. But so
Mm-hmm.
last month in June, we tested it for 48 hours, and boom, it worked. So now, what's the next goal?
Oh man, 3 megawatts, three
Yes,
megawatt system, and that is the size of the diesel backups that we have in Azure. So this is a full-on, beginning of the replacement of the power. I mean,
diesel fuel
like this is
backups.
this is like agile, right? A little bit by a little bit
Totally.
by a little bit. First it's a rack, and then it's like just keep trying to make small improvements because at some point you might see that we use solar or wind power to use hydrolysis to create hydrogen, and then we actually use
Yep.
hydrogen as the battery essentially to power the data center because
Right.
we can't afford to have the wind die down or something like that.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
we have to have a battery, but hydrogen can be the
Yeah.
battery.
Well, and the cool thing is, to your point, right? We use an electrolyzer basically, which takes the water molecules
Mm-hmm.
and breaks it up into hydrogen and oxygen. The planet is covered with what, 80%, 80+ % water?
It just so happens to have a lot of that. We have a lot of that
Yeah,
laying around.
we got a little bit of it sitting around. So,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, if all we have to do is, well, okay, I'm making this sound a lot easier than it is. If all we have to do is pull
Well,
out hydrogen,
I just get a
uh,
knife and I just go, and then
cut it in half, right?
is that how it
A
works?
really
No.
sharp knife. Yeah. But that, to
An
your
ant
point, though, that's
knife.
the cool thing is the cool thing is, right, we're testing a 3 megawatt system next.
Yeah.
And to your point, that's our backup generator.
Yeah.
So if we can test this at scale for long durations and it becomes, we can make sure it's stable and not dangerous and all the other things, right? I think you called out basically we'll have the equivalent of basically a dirigible, right? Or a blimp
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was saying.
at each one
Yeah,
of
I
these
was saying. Like
locations.
we got to be careful, because we are carrying, a huge tank of hydrogen next to the
Right.
data center. So we got to be careful.
A little bit,
But
yeah.
but this is exciting. This is really
And
cool.
effectively, we could get rid of our diesel-powered backup generators if this proves to be fruitful, which
Yeah.
I think is a huge step. If we're talking 2030, this is a great step in that direction when we talk about carbon neutrality or carbon negativity. This absolutely is I'll call it a step change in
Yeah.
getting to that point.
And 2030 is not that far away.
No, 10 years, man.
It's just
It's
10 years.
it's the
Like
clock is tick tick tick
I
tick tick.
know. I mean, it's not gonna take that long for us to figure out and to be implementing this. I mean, like this is coming. So this is
Well,
exciting.
and
This
think
is
about
fun.
that too, though. So if you have a data center on premises that you're still managing and maintaining, um, you're probably carbon positive. And I don't mean
Oh yeah.
positive in a positive way. You're carbon positive in terms of your carbon footprint,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So the last number I saw, I believe it said that we can run our data centers roughly 98% more efficiently than somebody can run an on-premises data center.
Yeah.
Okay, because you think about the volume or the economies of scale that we get in our purchasing power to get the equipment,
Hmm.
the fact that we've got a highly optimized is it the PEU or the PUE
Yeah, yeah, the power,
metrics?
yeah, the PUE,
Yep.
which is the basically how
Yeah.
much power comes into the building versus how much power is
Yep.
consumed by compute. In other words, that's a measure of the cooling.
Yeah, and that's a huge efficiency number, right? I mean, at some point, I think we're going to actually hit that theoretical, which may not be theoretical anymore, right? We're going to
It's
hit that limit, and wow, bam, there you go.
it
We
seems
can't
that
get any
way.
more efficient than that.
It does seem
So
that
yeah,
way these
this is
days.
a really exciting announcement. Again, being good stewards of, when we think about climate change, when we think about the world, we got one, right? And that's it. It's kind of like if you poke yourself in both eyes, you're now blind. Boy, you're going to wish you really didn't do that.
Another one that I saw that I think really sums this up well is there is no planet B. Uh,
No, yeah, not Plan B, Planet B.
Planet B. There is
Exactly.
no Planet B,
I
so we
love
really
that.
do need to do our best to take care of the planet. So we're doing
Absolutely.
our part. So
Yeah, so I would say thanks to Engadget for reporting on
yeah,
this. I think, we do have some Microsoft internal. You'll probably see some articles on LinkedIn. My guess is, as Microsoft advocates, that kind of thing. But just really exciting to know we're trending in the right direction. And this, I think, proves yes, we are a for-profit organization. We do this to make money, but that doesn't mean that we can't take that opportunity and take the power that we have and use it for some good.
well, and there is a cost to the environment for our carbon, and so we're trying to take our responsibility and say we do need to take care of the environment. We have a corporate responsibility to do our part. We can't do everything, but we can do our part. So
No, no, but we can do our part, and that's the critical piece. And frankly, to me, this goes above and beyond when we can potentially help customers get carbon negative
right,
as well, right?
right,
Now we're doing a lot more than just our part. So
right.
anyway, great article. Great way to wrap up a Friday.
Yeah.
Is to on a positive note, especially with everything that's going on, man.
Oh,
I hope everybody's staying safe,
yes.
sane, healthy.
Yeah.
If you're like me, you might be going a little bit stir crazy, getting a little cabin fever. I've been stocking
all
up on
all work and
parts
no play makes Jack a dull boy, right?
over and over and over. And oh, by the way, you will see that T-shirt pretty soon. I did order another set of T-shirts, and one of them is the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah. Love it. Okay,
So,
well,
Mark, let's say I want to ping you about this offline. How do I get a hold of you?
you can get me on Twitter at mgarner. I do check that, and I occasionally
Awesome.
tweet. Not very much. Usually, when I got some food the other day, and the food was like they had messed it up, and so I tweeted back to
Oh
corporate like,
no.
"Hey guys, like take care of this stuff." But you can
Yeah.
catch me on Twitter at mgarner, and you can also email me. Feel free, mgarner@microsoft.com. Rick, what about you? Where can people
Awesome.
find you?
Yep, absolutely. So the obvious place to reach us is at Azure Flash News. I do monitor that Twitter account and the DMs and everything else that goes with it. So feel free to reach us at the on our Twitter handle. Otherwise, you can always reach me at rick, at microsoft.com. Obviously, that's my work email address. Happy to respond to any questions, concerns, cheap shots, remarks, anything that you've got to say about the show. And if you do like us, as Mark mentioned before, go ahead and subscribe, give us a thumbs up,
Yeah.
and pass on the word, man.
Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe the video here on YouTube if you're watching there, and give us a 5-star review, please, on iTunes if you can. That helps the search results,
Yeah,
and we really appreciate you. Don't forget you can catch us on Twitter. I mean on Stitcher as well, and
Stitcher.
also
Yeah.
on Google.
Yep.
So we really appreciate that.
iTunes.
Yeah, on iTunes,
Yeah.
everywhere. So we try to be everywhere. Let us know if you have any feedback. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, yeah, that is. So, again, thank you for your time. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to having a conversation with you down the road in the near future. Until that point, keep your fingers on your sanitized keyboard, keep your mask on your face, but
Absolutely.
please, please, please always keep your head in the clouds.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.